The Empress failed her tribulation and was driven to a dead end, leaving her with no choice but to marry me. She sees only a tattered beggar, yet she does not realize that I am no mere mortal, but a transmigrator imprisoned for 100,000 years. Years ago, when I first transmigrated, I activated a system. I imagined that from that moment on, I would ascend to the pinnacle of existence. Who would have guessed that the system would play such a cruel trick on me? To avoid trouble, it cast me directly into this treacherous world of cultivation. Even more deceitful, while claiming it was for my own protection, the system sealed me away within a pocket dimension. One imprisonment lasted for a full 100,000 years. Because the system could not synchronize with the cultivation methods of this world, it had no choice but to force me to practice the sword arts of this high martial realm day after day. Year after year, day after day, perhaps due to a sliver of innate talent, I practiced with the intensity of a rising gale and a consuming fire. In the end, not only did I master a peerless sword god technique, but my temperament was also tempered into something wild and arrogant. Gazing upon the bustling Qingfeng city before me, I was so moved that tears streamed down my face. 100,000 years, a full 100,000 years, I have finally emerged. The first thing I intend to do is visit a sect in this world to seek an elixir capable of restoring my youthful appearance. At this moment, I look as frail as a candle flickering in the wind, appearing no different from a common beggar. Although the system has granted me immortality, it could not prevent the ravages of time from marking my form. The donkey beside me suddenly spoke in a human voice, its tone dripping with disdain. "Old man, what are you standing there daydreaming for? Hurry into the city. Any slower and the gates will have already closed." This donkey is naturally no ordinary creature. It is the embodiment of that treacherous system. Its name is Atong, and years ago, to prevent me from losing my mind in isolation, the system, in a rare show of humanity, transformed into this donkey to accompany me for 10,000 years. Yet, that companionship served little purpose. I would have preferred it to transform into something more useful. Regardless, this donkey is both insufferably talkative and begging for a beating. The resentment accumulated over 100,000 years surged within me. I raised my hand and struck Atong squarely on the head, with enough force to send it spinning 2.5 times in the air before it collapsed into the mud. After groaning on the ground for a long while, unable to rise, the donkey rolled its eyes and cursed, "If not for me, you would have long since been torn to shreds by the dimensional turbulence." I merely let out a cold laugh, and with a slight flick of my finger, I effortlessly grasped him into the palm of my hand. With a single kick, I sent him flying out of the mountain gate. From the distance, only the echoes of his indignant roars remained. "You stubborn old man, just you wait. I will surely make you taste the retribution of the system." Having dealt with that trash, I brushed the dust from my hands and stumbled toward Qingfeng City. For 100,000 years, I had not tasted worldly food, and I had long forgotten the flavor of human life. As I reached the city gates, the fragrance of steamed buns from the main street drifted toward me. The aroma of wine and roasted meat immediately seized my stomach, forcing me to swallow hard. Following the scent, I walked straight into a lavishly decorated restaurant, the Bixiao Pavilion, despite my appearance as a beggar. My clothes were tattered and torn, causing the waiter to look me up and down with clear disgust, though he dared not chase me away just yet. After all, this Qingfeng city is a place where crouching tigers and hidden dragons reside. No one knows if behind an inconspicuous person, there might be a truly terrifying backing. It was only when I shook the tattered cloth bag at my waist, and the crisp sound of metal clinking echoed from within, that the waiter's eyes brightened, the look of disdain vanishing entirely. He hurriedly put on a sycophantic smile. "Great immortal, please, come in, come in. I will find you the best seat by the window." But the moment I stepped into the pavilion, the stale odor clinging to my body, caused by years of imprisonment, made the patrons in the grand hall frown in unison. Whispers erupted everywhere. Who is this person? Why does he stink so badly? A beggar dares to enter the Bixiao Pavilion? Is the waiter blind? Quickly throw him out. He is ruining our appetite. Hearing these words, the corners of my mouth twitched as if I were about to lose my composure, a glint of malice flashing in my eyes. A surge of energy erupted from my frail body, acting as an invisible pressure that swept through the entire restaurant in a heartbeat. Within the pavilion, every person shuddered in unison. The chatter vanished instantly, and the entire restaurant fell into a dead silence. Even the sound of their breathing became shallow and cautious. I stumbled forward, found a seat near the window, and sat down. I tapped the table casually. "Bring out the finest dishes you have here. Bring your best wine as well, the more the better." At the table next to mine sat two women in luxurious gowns, their figures elegant and graceful. They wore thin veils over their faces, making it impossible to see their features, but judging by their posture and temperament, one could tell they were certainly no ordinary women. A sudden whim struck me, and the madness dormant within my heart began to stir. I let out a boisterous laugh and whistled at the two maidens. "Such beautiful young ladies, won't you share a smile with me?" The two moved slightly, but they did not deign to acknowledge me, remaining with their heads bowed as if discussing something in hushed tones. Seeing them ignore me, I continued, refusing to show me respect. "Are you? Very well. Ha ha ha." The maiden in the yellow robes finally could no longer contain herself. She tilted her head slightly, shooting me a stunning glare through her thin silk veil, and just as she was about to open her mouth to rebuke me, she was gently pulled back by the maiden in the blue robes beside her. The maiden in blue shook her head slightly, signaling her not to stir up unnecessary trouble. Before long, fine wine and delicacies covered the entire table. Roasted chicken and duck, deep red braised ribs, accompanied by a jar of aged wine, the aroma assaulting my senses. However, I had not yet managed to take more than a few bites when I saw a young master with slicked hair and a powdered face suddenly dash down from the staircase. His eyes were filled with absolute terror, as if he had just witnessed something truly horrific. He scrambled frantically toward the window, shattered the frame, and dove straight out into the open. Upon seeing this, the expressions of the two maidens shifted instantly. They stood up abruptly and chased after him through the window. Watching the two immortal-like sisters vanish, I hastily grabbed a roasted chicken, slapped the cloth pouch at my waist onto the table, and with a flash of movement I disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye, leaving behind only the waiter, whose face was filled with secret joy. But when the waiter carefully opened the pouch, expecting to find gold or jewels, the joy on his face instantly transformed into utter bewilderment. There was no gold or treasure in the bag. It was filled only with black medicinal pills, each the size of a little finger. That night, the waiter sat dazed in his chair, his mind buzzing incessantly. This meal was worth 3 months of his wages, yet it was repaid only with a pouch of blackened pills. But little did he know that this seemingly ordinary bag of pills would eventually lead him to become a legend of Ling Yun. By the time I reached the main street, the two maidens were already nowhere to be found. I furrowed my brows, pressed 2 fingers of my right hand together into a sword gesture, gathered a faint trace of swordy at the tips, and gently traced a line across the sky. Immediately thereafter, the sky, which had been basking in warm sunlight, suddenly turned heavy and overcast. I closed my eyes, sensing the feedback from every raindrop, and before long I had tracked the aura of those two women. At this moment, in a secluded courtyard in the west of Qingfeng City, the young man with the slicked back hair and powdered face stood triumphantly in the center of the yard, looking down at the two women before him, bound tightly like trussed-up offerings. A lecherous smirk curled upon his lips. He reached out and violently tore the thin veil from the head of the woman in the blue dress, revealing a face of near-perfect beauty that materialized before his eyes. Although her complexion was pale, she remained breathtakingly beautiful. The young girl in the yellow dress nearby wept silently, her shoulders trembling violently, not out of fear, but out of a heart heavy with remorse and self-reproach. If it were not for her reckless decision to rush into this courtyard, her senior sister would never have fallen into the hands of a villain. In contrast, the woman in the blue dress remained unusually calm, though her heart was filled with suspicion. Why did this youth know how to use the soul-locking curse of the Nether Sect? The Nether Sect was a notorious demonic cult in the spirit realm, known for harvesting blood and souls to summon demonic beasts and slaughtering the innocent. It was a force that everyone sought to eradicate, having long been suppressed by the combined might of the major sects, almost vanishing from the world entirely. It was unexpected that they would appear in this mundane Qingfeng city and be so brazen in their actions. The young man reached out, intending to touch the chest of the woman in the blue dress. "Beautiful, stop struggling. From this day forth, you belong to this young master. Haha, follow me, and I guarantee you will live a life of luxury." "Hey, you little brat, you're quite skilled at playing games for your age, aren't you?" Upon hearing this, every hair on the youth's body stood on end. Within this courtyard, he had long ago set up the soul-trapping formation of the Nether Sect. An ordinary cultivator could never have infiltrated this place so silently. Yet the person before him had appeared without a single sound. "Who are you? You dare to ruin my affairs? If you know what's good for you, get out at once, or this young master will make sure your soul is scattered to the winds." Just as the youth was overcome with terror, I struck a heavy palm against his backside, the pain nearly forcing tears from his eyes. Seeing this, the fear in the youth's heart surged even further. He hurriedly channeled his power to spring from the ground, leaped onto the courtyard wall, and gnashing his teeth, spat out a vicious threat. "You old bastard, you dare to ruin my fun? Just you wait." But before he could finish his threat, a chicken bone, imbued with spirit energy, tore through the air like a gust of wind, cutting him off mid-sentence. A piercing shrill whistle suddenly rang out. That chicken bone acted no differently than a sharp sword. Carrying the sound of tearing through the air, it shot straight into the youth's thigh in the blink of an eye. That chicken bone acted no differently than a sharp sword. Carrying the sound of tearing through the air, it shot straight into the youth's thigh in the blink of an eye. Even more terrifying was the residual sword chi left within the bloody wound, clinging to the bone like a venomous parasite, frenziedly shredding his flesh. The heart-wrenching, lung-tearing agony forced a miserable scream from his throat. I then turned to look at the two bound women, who clearly remained bewildered, unable to grasp what had just transpired. "Are you both cultivators?" The woman in the blue dress paused for a moment, then nodded in slight astonishment. I could not help but cough, feigning composure as I asked, "If you're indeed cultivators, do you possess any medicinal elixir capable of reversing aging? Something that could restore my youthful appearance." Upon hearing this, the woman in the blue dress immediately exhaled in relief. She nodded slightly and replied, "Sinjawart, Bixiao Pavilion possesses the Manhua elixir. This elixir can nourish the flesh and reverse the signs of old age." But before she could finish, I was so overcome with agitation that I nearly choked, instantly grabbing her small hand, and speaking in an urgent tone, "As long as it exists, that is fine. It is enough. I shall accompany you to Bixiao Pavilion. Whatever you require, I shall help you obtain it. From this moment on, you are my closest companions." Through our subsequent conversation, I learned that the woman in the blue dress was named Su Qing, the senior sister of Bixiao Pavilion, while the woman in the yellow dress was her junior sister. They had come to Qingfeng City this time to investigate the series of recent disappearances. In the span of a single month, over 100 young maidens had vanished from Qingfeng City without leaving a single trace. Suspecting a connection to the Yuming sect, they had been conducting a covert investigation. Little did they expect to fall into the trap set by that youth moments ago. After hearing the entire account, a fierce glint of killing intent flashed in the depths of my eyes, and a burst of sword chi shot out, instantly executing the youth who was still groaning nearby. Then I thrust both my hands into the ground. Su Qing and Xiaodi wore expressions of deep confusion, unable to fathom what I intended to do. The very next second, the ground began to tremble violently. As I channeled my strength into my arms, I forcefully heaved a massive section of the earth upward and cast it aside. A thick, pungent scent of blood immediately surged into the air. Everyone present immediately took a closer look. Beneath the layer of earth lay a vast hollow chamber. At the very center of this cavern was a pool filled with fresh blood. The perimeter of the pool was inscribed with intricate and sinister runes. An old man withered like a corpse sat within the blood pool with his eyes tightly shut. What caused Su Qin and Xiao Di to completely break down was the sight of shriveled corpses hanging all along the cavern walls. A single glance revealed that these victims had been young maidens in the prime of their lives. Su Qin gazed at the scene, which was no different from a living hell, and could no longer suppress the sorrow surging within his heart. His figure flickered, and he lunged directly toward the corpse-like elder in the blood pool. Just as his attack was about to strike the old man, the elder showed no reaction whatsoever. The corpse-like elder suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were devoid of pupils, revealing only a deep pitch-black abyss as a tyrannical aura surged toward the heavens, swirling with rolling waves of malevolent energy that erupted outwards, sweeping across the entire residence in an instant. The fresh blood in the pool turned violent, roiling like boiling water in the blink of an eye. A massive wave of blood surged from the pool, carrying a power capable of destroying heaven and earth, crashing down upon Su Qin's head. Su Qin had no time to dodge and could only release all the true energy within his body, wrapping it around himself to form an eggshell-like protective barrier. A thunderous explosion echoed, and the protective barrier shattered instantly. Su Qin spat out a mouthful of blood, his body flying backward like a kite with a broken string. At this moment, my full attention was fixed upon the corpses of the young maidens. The culprits' methods were truly seasoned and ruthless. Their blood was not drained in a single instance, but allowed to bleed out drop by drop, forcing them to perish in endless agony. Just as I was muttering to myself, Su Qin flew directly toward me. I tapped my finger lightly, dissipating the entire force of the impact from his body, and caught him steadily. At the same time, the old man in the blood pool slowly stood up, emitting the voice was so hoarse and eerie that it sent shivers down one's spine. Ha ha ha, yet another soul has arrived to offer up their life. The old man's voice grated like a shattered gong. With the lifeblood of you cultivators, I shall fully break free from the erosion of the heavenly Tao, restoring my strength to its peak. When that time comes, this entire spirit realm shall be mine to command. Just as he intended to use our blood to complete the final ritual, a melodious voice echoed from the distance. Blood fiend patriarch, you wretched beast. Blood fiend patriarch, you wretched beast, how dare you slaughter so many innocent young maidens? Today I, Lu Ruyan, shall claim your dog's life. As the words fell, a figure in azure robes descended from the horizon, landing directly before us. Su Chen looked at the woman who had suddenly appeared and could not help but cry out, for this person was his martial aunt, an elder of the Bixiao Pavilion. Lu Ruyan watched as the blood fiend patriarch stepped slowly out of the blood pool. With every step he took, the fresh blood beneath his feet was absorbed into his body, causing his withered frame to become fuller. Finally, from a decrepit living corpse, he transformed into a robust man of about 30 years of age. Lu Ruyan's expression immediately turned grim. She knew full well that the blood fiend patriarch was a veteran powerhouse of the Nether sect. By using the blood of over 100 virgin maidens to nourish a body ravaged by the heavenly Tao, his current strength had far surpassed his normal limits. If they were to clash recklessly, Qingfeng City would surely face total annihilation and countless innocents would undoubtedly perish. Just as the two sides were locking horns, I plunged headfirst into the blood pool. I had assumed I would also experience rejuvenation like the blood fiend patriarch, but to my surprise, I felt no change whatsoever. Frustrated, I asked, "Old man, how did you manage to regain your youth? Why have I been soaking in this for so long without the slightest change? Are you perhaps concealing the secret method from me?" Seeing this, the blood fiend patriarch was so infuriated that he began to laugh. Ha ha ha. The blood fiend patriarch, overcome with disbelief, erupted into laughter. Ha ha ha. Where did this madman crawl out from? Have you no self-awareness to think you could compare yourself to me? Get out of there at once, or I shall drain your blood and refine you into a sacrificial offering. My temper flared, and I could no longer restrain myself. I launched myself from the blood pool and charged straight toward him. The blood fiend patriarch's pupils contracted, and the smile vanished from his face in an instant. He never expected that this man who appeared to be on the verge of death could strike with such blinding speed, a speed so great that he was completely unable to evade. But just as I was about to close the distance, a series of crisp cracking sounds suddenly erupted from my body, and I collapsed headlong into the dirt, muttering uncontrollably, "Ouch. My aging waist exerted far too much force just now. This decrepit shell of a body is truly useless." The scene before him elicited a cold, mocking laugh from the blood-slaughter ancestor. "So it turns out you are merely a madman with an impressive facade and no substance. I actually thought you were formidable. You have been a complete waste of this ancestor's time." Immediately after, the blood-slaughter ancestor offered up a crimson nether banner. As the nether banner was unfurled, countless mournful souls poured forth from within, accompanied by ear-piercing shrieks, striking unease into the hearts of all who witnessed it. At this very moment, a dark shadow plummeted from the sky, crashing heavily into the ground. It was Atong, whom I had kicked away earlier, but upon seeing my pathetic state, Atong widened his mouth, staring at my disheveled appearance, revealing a set of gleaming white teeth with a voice full of sarcasm. "Haha, you old immortal, so you have met your match. Were you not acting quite imposing just moments ago? How is it that you look no better than a drowned dog right now?" It was so ridiculous I was forced to scramble up and land 2 consecutive punches squarely on his donkey-like head. Seeing that this man and his beast did not hold him in any regard whatsoever, the blood-slaughter ancestor could finally endure it no longer and roared, "Insolent fools, you dare to look down upon me? Today I shall ensure your souls are scattered into nothingness, never to find peace for eternity." As the words left his lips, he waved the nether banner in his hand once more, and the countless spectral ghosts became even more savage, charging directly toward us. That terrifying sinister aura seemed almost capable of devouring the very space around us. Seeing this, I drew a weathered wooden blade from my waist, then leaped onto the back of Atong, the old donkey, and charged forward, "Clear out all this trash for me." Lu Ruyan originally intended to intervene and assist me against the blood-fiend patriarch, but Suqin desperately held her back. Suqin shook his head, his voice heavy as he spoke. "Martial Ant, do not go. You are no match for him. This senior is far more terrifying than the blood-fiend patriarch himself. We need only ensure our own safety, and take care not to become a hindrance to him." As the blood-fiend patriarch saw me ensnared by his 10,000 ghosts devouring soul technique, the corners of his mouth curled into a cruel smile. These spirits could tear directly into one's soul. Compared to physical agony, the suffering inflicted upon the spirit is 100,000 times more agonizing. Yet the very next second his smile vanished, for the donkey and I remained standing perfectly still, even as the 10,000 ghosts surged toward us. Upon closer inspection, one could see a layer of sword intent enveloping my body. Those vile ghosts could not inflict even the slightest harm upon me. This technique is interesting. Just a moment ago, you cursed me as an old madman and ordered me to scram. Now it is my turn to settle the score with you. I slowly raised the wooden sword in my hand, and a peculiar ripple of energy surged from all directions. Immediately following that, I struck the blood-fiend patriarch directly in the face with my sword, sending him flying backward until he slammed violently against the cavern wall. "Do not play dead. Speak quickly. What exactly is this method of rejuvenation? If you dare to deceive me, I will hack you into 10,000 pieces." Lu Ruyan, watching from the side, hurriedly stepped forward with a complex expression, imploring the senior to temper his rage. He has not truly achieved rejuvenation. He originally possessed the appearance of a man in his prime, but due to his years of slaughtering the innocent and cultivating dark arts that incited the wrath of heaven and earth's righteous energy, his body was gradually eroded, leaving him withered like a corpse. He is merely using the essence and blood of 100 virgin maidens to temporarily suppress that righteous energy and restore his original appearance. Upon hearing this, I realized I had been toyed with. In a surge of fury, I brought my sword down upon the blood-fiend patriarch. He watched helplessly as a wave of black sword intent surged right before his eyes, yet he could do nothing but listen to the sharp, cold sound of the strike. His body, every drop of vitality had been drained from his body, leaving nothing behind. Lurian stared at the scene before her, her gaze completely dazed. An elder of the Nether sect had perished so quietly that everyone felt as though they were trapped in a dream. Then Lurian bowed deeply before me. "Many thanks to the senior for eliminating this scourge for the sake of the people, and for slaying this demonic entity, saving everyone in our Bixiao Pavilion, as well as saving the lives of countless innocent young women." Lurian was immensely grateful, but there was no need for such flowery words. Those polite remarks are useless. Just hand me a manhua pill and do not dally. Upon hearing this, Lurian looked doubtfully toward her junior sister Suqing. Suqing suppressed the pain in her backside and recounted everything that had transpired from start to finish, leaving no detail out. After listening, Lurian knitted her brows slightly and replied, "Senior, to be honest with you, the Ninghua pill is not merely a supreme elixir, it is the finest medicinal pill of our Bixiao Pavilion. The refining process is incredibly complex, and the rare heavenly treasures required are extremely scarce. Currently, there are no finished pills available in Bixiao Pavilion." Seeing my expression darken instantly, she hurriedly added, "But please rest assured, Senior. I invite you to stay at Bixiao Pavilion for a few days. I will immediately order the alchemists of the pavilion to exhaust all efforts to refine one, and once the Ninghua pill is successfully refined, I will present it to you with both hands." "Our room and board included?" Lu Ruyan was slightly stunned before she replied, "Of course, during your stay at Bixiao Pavilion, all expenses will be covered. I will personally assign someone to take care of all your daily needs." "Very well, it is a deal then?" Within her heart, Lu Ruyan was secretly overjoyed. Her proposal had been calculated from the start. Given the strength I had just demonstrated, it was certainly not something an ordinary cultivator could possess. I was likely an elite cultivator beyond the sixth realm. Given the strength I had just demonstrated, it was certainly not something an ordinary cultivator could possess. I was likely an elite cultivator beyond the sixth realm. If she could invite me to oversee Bixiao Pavilion, then in the future Bixiao Pavilion would no longer need to fear the whims of other sects. The Bixiao Pavilion lies deep within the Qingluan mountain range, surrounded by layers of towering peaks, housing a total of no fewer than 10,000 disciples. Unlike other sects, the Bixiao Pavilion specializes in water attribute cultivation techniques, most of which are auxiliary in nature. Consequently, the sect consists entirely of female disciples, standing as the premier matriarchal sect in the region. This place is a sanctuary of grace that countless male cultivators dream of day and night. The Bixiao Pavilion is particularly famous for its three celebrated beauties, which has drawn the greedy gazes of many with ill intentions. Fortunately, the Bixiao Pavilion has always relied on the protection of a greater power, the Zhenyun sect. Although their own combat prowess is somewhat concerning, under the shelter of the Zhenyun sect over these past years, their life has remained relatively peaceful. After Lu Ruyan brought me back, she immediately summoned the core disciples and the sect's guest elders, opening a council to propose that Feng Lingyan be appointed as a guest elder of the Bixiao Pavilion. As soon as these words were spoken, the meeting hall erupted into an immediate uproar. The most vehemently opposed among them was a woman dressed in a magnificent cloud brocade gown, possessing a bewitchingly seductive appearance. This woman named Qian Yuqiao was also a guest elder of the Bixiao Pavilion. Her cultivation base was profound, her nature harsh and vicious, and she had always been overbearing and lawless. The reason for her agitation was actually quite simple. The resources of the Bixiao Pavilion were already limited. Duplicate entry noted. The source text repeated this line. The resources of the Bixiao Pavilion were already limited, and with 3 guest elders already in place, if another person were added to divide the spoils, the tributes and cultivation resources allotted to each person would significantly decrease. This was something she absolutely could not tolerate. Chen Yuqiao became increasingly agitated, going so far as to nearly point her finger in Lu Ruyan's face while berating Elder Lu. Have you lost your mind? Does a mere beggar like that deserve to be a guest elder of our Bixiao Pavilion? I absolutely will not allow it. Lu Ruyan was not a woman to be trifled with, and she immediately countered with sharp, biting retorts. The two exchanged heated words, arguing incessantly, causing Qian Yuqiao's face to flush with fury, her chest heaving violently, wishing she could strike then and there. Sitting on the main chair in the center of the hall was a beauty dressed in traditional palace attire. She rested her chin in her hand, watching Chen Yuqiao with an expression of profound boredom. This woman is not only the second-ranked beauty on the beauty rankings, but also the current pavilion master of the Bixiao Pavilion, Su Qingluan. Seeing the two of them arguing with increasing intensity and appearing on the verge of coming to blows, Su Qingluan slowly raised her hand and spoke with a faint smile. That is enough. Cease your bickering. As her words fell, the meeting hall instantly returned to silence, with everyone's gaze fixed upon her. Subsequently, Su Qingluan stood up and led everyone from the meeting hall to the small courtyard where I was temporarily staying to meet me. When Qian Yuqiao caught sight of my ragged appearance, she immediately began to issue threats. Pavilion Master Su, if you dare to allow this old man to become a guest elder in the Bixiao Pavilion, I shall leave this place at once, and I shall never return. Yet what Qian Yuqiao did not expect was that Su Qingluan merely cast her indifferent glance before speaking calmly and without a moment's hesitation. Very well, if guest elder Qian has made up her mind to leave, then I shall not insist on you staying. You are free to go. The atmosphere turned incredibly awkward in an instant, for how could Qian Yuqiao bear to leave the Bixiao Pavilion where she enjoyed such comforts and possessed an endless supply of cultivation resources? More importantly, she did not need to risk her life in the face of death. She only needed to cultivate in peace. Only a fool would truly choose to leave at such a moment. Consequently, she hurriedly changed the subject and said, "That is not what I meant. What I mean is that the origins of this old man who refuses to die are unclear. If we allow him to remain in the Bixiao Pavilion and something were to happen, it would be our pavilion that loses face." Before she could even finish her sentence, a crisp, sharp slap suddenly echoed through the air. Qian Yuqiao was spun around in a circle on the spot by the force of the blow, her cheek swelling instantly, bearing the clear imprint of a hand. This strike not only left Qian Yuqiao stunned, but also caught everyone present in a state of utter shock. Although Qian Yuqiao was malicious and cruel, she was after all an expert of the martial realm. Yet faced with such a simple and unadorned slap, which carried no flair but was filled with profound humiliation. Faced with a simple unadorned slap that was humiliating to the bone, she did not even have the time to react. By the time she regained her senses, she saw me wiping my hand in disgust against my tattered robes. As if enraged, she took a sudden step forward, gathering all her strength to swing a vicious slap toward my face. I had not expected this woman to be so impetuous. In my life, I have only ever been the one to strike others. Since when has it been my turn to be struck? Without hesitation, I willed a rudimentary sword technique into existence and slammed my right hand against the ground. A crisp cracking sound echoed through the air like shattering glass as fine, jagged fissures materialized in the space before me. Qian Yuchao's hand froze just an inch from my face, unable to advance even half a fraction, as if halted by an invisible barrier. Her face was contorted in sheer astonishment. Instinctively looking down, she saw a transparent, colorless blade of ice that had silently pierced through her protective aura, striking with lethal precision through her heart. Fresh blood slowly dripped from the tip of the blade, staining the ground with a small, spreading pool, a piercing, vivid crimson. Chen Yuchao's eyes were filled with disbelief. Her lips trembled as if to speak, but she could not emit a single sound. Her body went limp, collapsing heavily to the ground as her life force completely extinguished. Even in death, she could not fathom from where that blade of ice had emerged. Only in the depths of Su Qingluan's eyes did a flicker of realization appear. She faintly perceived that the ice blade had been formed by me, condensing the moisture in the air through the infusion of sword qi. Yet she could never have anticipated that such a hastily formed weapon would possess such terrifying power, capable of slaying a martial realm cultivator in a single strike. The expression on Su Qingluan's face turned ghastly. The death of Chen Yuchao was of no great consequence. For the Bixiao Pavilion, it was arguably a cause for celebration. However, Qian Yuchao had an elder brother named Qian Wangguan who served as an elder of the Feiyun sect. While the Feiyun sect was merely a mid-tier sect, it was significantly more powerful than the Bixiao Pavilion. This was the very reason Chen Yuchao had dared to act with such arrogance within the Bixiao Pavilion all these years, and why Su Qingyuan dared not forcefully expel her. I looked down at the corpse on the floor, unable to refrain from rolling my eyes, and seeing the troubled expressions of Su Qingyuan and the others, I knew this matter was far from concluded. I stood to the side and said in a calm, indifferent tone, "Young lady, rest assured, you are not the one who killed her. She rushed to her own death. I will bear the full consequences of this matter, ensuring your Bixiao Pavilion is not implicated in the slightest." Upon hearing this, Su Qingyuan finally regained her composure. He then turned hurriedly to instruct Lu Rian at his side. "Handle the remains of Qian Yujiao properly. It must be done discreetly. Let no word of this leak out." Afterwards, Su Qingyuan led me to the reception hall and specified the ingredients required to refine the Ninghua pill. The Bixiao Pavilion possesses a deep foundation, and most of the materials could be gathered with ease, yet two crucial components, the soul herb and the azure dew bead, could only be obtained by entering the Qingfeng secret realm. Su Qingyuan explained that the Qingfeng secret realm is a unique spatial rift that opens only once every 100 years. The secret realm is filled with countless heavenly treasures, attracting swarms of competing cultivators. However, a peculiar barrier exists within the realm, enforcing extremely strict limitations on cultivation levels. Any cultivator at the ancient realm or higher is fundamentally unable to enter, and should one attempt to force their way in, their soul would be torn asunder by the barrier until not a trace remains. I had initially assumed I would have to wait 100 years to acquire the materials, but to my surprise, Su Qingyuan continued, "Senior, do not worry. The Qingfeng secret realm will open in 3 days' time, and when it does, I shall have Su Qin and Xiao Di accompany you. Their cultivation levels are both at the 4th realm, which perfectly aligns with the restrictions of the secret realm." I immediately breathed a sigh of relief, a faint smile spreading across my face. Noticing this, Su Qingyuan paused, mistakenly believing I hadn't heard clearly, and decided to emphasize the point once more. "Senior, please allow me to remind you. The Qingfeng secret realm has a restrictive barrier. Cultivators above the 5th realm absolutely cannot enter." I let out a soft scoff and waved my hand. "Rest assured, that does not concern me. After all, I am not a cultivator. The arts I practice are the swordsmanship of a high martial world, entirely distinct from the cultivation system of this plane. I possess no such thing as realms to speak of, and naturally, I am not bound by the restrictions of the secret realm's barrier." Hearing this, Su Qingyuan began to stammer, her face filled with disbelief. "Senior, you are not a cultivator? But you just executed Qian Yujiao, and you even possessed the strength to overpower the blood-fiend old ancestor." I waved my hand, my voice laced with impatience. "Ask no more of this. When the time comes, simply call for me. I will accompany you and ensure that I do not become a burden, and I may even assist you in vying for those heavenly treasures." Though Su Qingyuan was brimming with questions, she knew her place and decided not to press the matter further. He moved on to discuss my retainer salary with me. His heart filled with anxiety, fearful that I might demand an astronomical price, and he had likely already envisioned a variety of scenarios in his mind. If I were to demand something he could not provide, I might leave in a fit of rage. I told him I required no salary, only room and board, and to find 2 young maidens who were pleasant to the eyes to serve me tea and pour water, wash my robes and cook my meals, that would suffice. Aside from that, I had no other requests. Su Qingyuan responded hurriedly and retreated with a beam of joy, inwardly elated. Such requests were in truth far too easy to satisfy. Not long after Su Qingyuan departed, a Tong, the creature manifested by the system, ran back with a look of fury on its face. Previously, I had kicked it with such force that it flew 1,000 meters away. Had it not been bound to me, who knows how long it would have taken to return. Seeing that it still harbored resentment, I spoke first to silence it. "If you dare to mutter a single word, I will beat you until you lose all control of your bowels. If you do not believe me, feel free to test my resolve." A Tong's fire was instantly extinguished, its ears drooped, and it hung its head in dejection. It was long accustomed to this, for it had to endure a beating every single day regardless. After a moment of silence, it trotted back toward me, a flattering smile plastered across its face. A Tong intended to discuss another matter with me. Old monster, listen to me closely, it began. I have thoroughly investigated the cultivation system of this world. However, this place is suppressed by the heavenly Tao, so I am currently unable to infiltrate this plane. I have devised a plan. You need only strike down several members of the local nobility, slaughter a few hundred or even 1,000 grand figures, and by then, with lamentations echoing everywhere, the heavenly Tao will surely move to eradicate you. I will seize the opportunity while the heavenly Tao is occupied with you to sneak inside, and then the two of us shall dominate this plane. I looked down at Atong's eyes, which were filled with wisdom, and without another word, I swung my fist down directly onto its head. With two sharp thuds, Atong shrieked in pain, and then I raised my leg, delivering another kick that sent it flying away once more. You are truly a moronic fire beast, I cursed. Though I may be somewhat mad and prone to fits of violence, I am not a heartless demon to think you would dare to conceive such a foul scheme. Be careful, or I shall boil you alive. You are truly a dense ass. I may be slightly unhinged and harbor a penchant for violence, but I am no murderous demon lord. To think you would dare to conceive such a foul scheme, be careful, or I shall boil you alive. Atong was kicked away, slamming heavily against the courtyard wall. It whimpered as it scrambled to its feet, but dared not utter a single word of resentment, retreating instead to a far corner with eyes filled with grievances. As dusk approached, Su Qin and Xiao Di arrived, carrying heavy food boxes and stepping inside with cautious movements. The two of them had been dispatched by Su Qingyuan to attend to my needs. Before they left, Su Qingyuan had repeatedly instructed them. No matter how unreasonable the demands of this senior might be, they were to be fulfilled without question. Both young maidens had long since steeled themselves for the prospect of being mistreated. I looked at the meat and vegetables in Su Qin's hands. Feeling so excited, I nearly cried out and hurriedly stepped forward to take the ingredients and set up the pot. Before long, a table full of savory meat and vegetable dishes was laid out. I gazed at the boiling, intensely spicy hot pot broth before me, a satisfied smile blooming on my lips, and hurriedly invited the two maidens to sit. They exchanged glances, then looked at me. After hesitating for a moment, they finally sat down beside me with great trepidation. However, the intensity of the spice in the hot pot far exceeded what they could endure. Each picked up a small piece of meat, but the moment they tasted it, their faces turned beet red, and they hurriedly covered their mouths, gasping for air. No matter how much I urged them, they refused to touch their chopsticks again. In the end, the entire table of meat and vegetables was swept into my stomach like a gale scattering clouds. As for Atong, which had been kicked away earlier, it was curled up upon the decorative roof tile, its long fish-like face drooping, eyes wide and filled with resentment. It stared fixedly at the empty pot in the courtyard, those wide eyes still brimming with grievances, staring unblinkingly at the empty pot in the courtyard, looking as though it had been subjected to miserable mistreatment. The subsequent days passed with an unusual tranquility. Until the morning the Qingfeng secret realm opened, the martial arts arena of Yunlan Peak was already packed with people. They were all elite disciples of the Bixiao Pavilion, personally selected by Su Qingyuan. I heard from Liu Ruyan that due to the weakening strength of the sect, the Bixiao Pavilion had not set foot in the Qingfeng secret realm for nearly 1,000 years. The world of cultivation has always been a place where the big fish eat the small. Without strength, one cannot contend for the heavenly treasures hidden within the secret realms, and without resources, one cannot cultivate true powerhouses. If this vicious cycle continues, the Bixiao Pavilion will sooner or later be swallowed by other sects and vanish entirely. This time, Su Qingyuan has staked everything, choosing this group of elite disciples. Firstly, for them to accompany me into the secret realm for training, and secondly, to cultivate the next generation of pillars for the Bixiao Pavilion. If they can survive and return, they will be the hope of the Bixiao Pavilion. When Liu Ruyan led the team, she produced a bamboo flute. As her fingertips glowed with a faint green light, a clear, piercing flute note cut through the sky. From deep within the distant mountain range, a cry that shook the very clouds echoed out, and a green shadow streaked directly into the heavens. That was the Bixiao Pavilion's only long-distance flying spirit beast. The cloud-scale sparrow flew with lightning speed. It would only take one day to reach the Qingfeng secret realm. I looked at that plump cloud-scale sparrow, my throat moved involuntarily, and I reached up to wipe a corner of my mouth that was in fact quite dry. Looking at that bird, one could tell it was full of meat. If it were butchered and served in a hot pot, it would surely be enough to satisfy our entire group. Little Dai's face turned pale instantly. She was so frightened that her whole body trembled, and the sword in her hand nearly fell to the ground. She was so terrified that she shook uncontrollably, and the sword in her hand nearly dropped to the ground once more. The cloud-scale sparrow was the only spirit beast in the Bixiao Pavilion capable of long-distance flight. If it were truly tossed into a hot pot, the sect would have no choice but to let its disciples fly on their own for future travels. Facing such a long journey, they would likely be exhausted to the point of collapse. Seeing how tense they were, I laughed softly and waved my hand. It was merely a joke. Watching the two of them so thoroughly spooked, I stepped lightly on the tips of my toes as soon as I finished speaking, landing steadily atop the head of the cloud-scale sparrow. This scene caused all the disciples present to gasp in shock. Even Liu Ruyan's expression shifted in alarm. The cloud-scale sparrow was naturally fierce and prideful, notoriously difficult to tame, let alone allowing someone to stand upon its head. As expected, the moment the cloud-scale sparrow felt the weight upon its head, it became agitated and restless. It thrashed its head wildly, attempting to shake me off, but at the very moment its sharp beak was about to strike me, a sudden surge of killing intent radiated from my body, and the creature was instantly paralyzed with fear, unable to stop itself from shivering violently. Seeing the cloud-scale sparrow suddenly grow docile and quiet, the disciples all widened their eyes, staring in stunned disbelief. They had never seen this bird so docile. In the blink of an eye, my image in their eyes became significantly more formidable. The cloud-scaled sparrow flapped its wings and took flight, a gale wind whipping up the sleeves of the disciples as Lu Ruyan retrieved a yellowed map from her storage bag and presented it before me. I glanced at it casually, and in that brief moment, every detail on the map was deeply etched into my mind. I waved my hand nonchalantly. There is no need to show me further. Just tell me what must be kept in mind once we enter the secret realm. Just tell me what precautions are necessary once we have entered the secret realm. With that, I leaned back against the feathers of the cloud-scaled sparrow. Leisurely, I observed the scenery passing by. Hearing this, Lu Ruyan nodded and spoke. Once we enter the secret realm, everyone will be teleported to random locations. To ensure our safety, we must immediately converge at the assembly point marked on the map. Furthermore, each time the Qingfeng secret realm opens, it lasts only 7 days. If one remains in the secret realm after the time limit has expired, one can only wait until the next time the realm opens to depart. By that time, I fear one would be trapped within, with survival being a distant hope. Just as Lu Ruyan was carefully cautioning me about the taboos within the realm, a blinding streak of light suddenly appeared from not far away. It tore through the clouds with such velocity that only a trail of afterimages remained, striking violently against the wing of the cloud-scaled sparrow, causing the creature to stagger heavily, knocking it completely off its flight path. I narrowed my eyes, watching the streak of light as it sped away. Who could that be? Do they not know how to watch where they are going while flying? Have they never heard the saying, "There are 1,000 paths to travel, but safety must come first"? If you have ruined the ingredients for my hot pot, can you even afford to compensate me? The system donkey lay prone beside me, its donkey eyes bulging wide, its entire expression one of having seen a ghost. In its eyes, given my tyrannical and overbearing nature in the past, that insolent streak of light should have already been shredded into pieces by a single strike of my sword chi. Yet today I merely uttered a rebuke and showed no further reaction. It was truly anomalous. It was just about to open its mouth to mock me, wondering if I had changed my temperament, but the streak of light that had flown, it stood like a sharp blade blocking our path. It forced the cloud spirit sparrow to halt in midair. It was a black gold spirit tortoise possessing 2 distinct heads. Its stature was in no way inferior to the cloud spirit sparrow. Its ferocity was overwhelming, easily surpassing the cloud spirit sparrow by more than a mere grade. It was clearly not a spirit beast of the same rank. Lu Ruyan's expression darkened instantly. She whispered, "It is the black gold spirit tortoise. The people from the spirit taming sect have arrived." Her voice carried a heavy, somber tone. She lowered her voice to explain to me, the spirit taming sect centers their cultivation on beast taming. Every disciple within their sect is an expert at subjugating spirit beasts. They are frequent visitors to the Qingfeng secret realm. Their overall strength far exceeds that of the Bixiao Pavilion. Furthermore, their conduct is tyrannical and they have no regard for reason. In the past, Bixiao Pavilion disciples were often suppressed by them within secret realms, and many lost their lives as a result. At that moment, a middle-aged man standing atop the massive tortoise looked at Lu Ruyan with an enigmatic, mocking smile. He then spoke with a shrill, mocking tone to greet us. "Is this not Elder Lu of the Bixiao Pavilion? By the looks of it, you intend to enter the Qingfeng secret realm, do you not?" Upon hearing this, Lu Ruyan cast a cold glance at the man. She then whispered to me that this man was Elder Chu Xiong of the spirit taming sect. His life-bound spirit beast is a 9-tailed spirit fox. His combat prowess is formidable. He has always targeted the Bixiao Pavilion, and there is quite a history of enmity between us. After speaking, Lu Ruyan raised her head, looked at him, and retorted in a cold voice, "And what of it? If your spirit taming sect can enter, why is it that we from the Bixiao Pavilion cannot?" Chu Xiong let out a disdainful laugh upon hearing her words. Chu Xiong replied, "The Qingfeng secret realm is indeed open to everyone. But for delicate women like yourselves, entering is nothing more than throwing your lives away. Has the Bixiao Pavilion not avoided this realm for 1,000 years? Is it not because everyone who entered before failed to return alive?" The moment Chu Xiong finished speaking, the surrounding crowd erupted into mocking laughter. Everyone in the spirit domain knows that the Bixiao Pavilion specializes in auxiliary techniques. Their disciples are mostly gentle in nature. They are not adept at life and death combat. Entering a secret realm to vie for resources is truly no different than a lamb entering a tiger's den. Lu Ruyan turned flushed with anger, her hands clenching into tight fists until her nails nearly pierced her skin, yet she remained powerless to act. For everything Chu Hung said was the absolute truth. Seeing her lose her composure in such helpless frustration, Chu Hung felt an even greater sense of smug satisfaction. His gaze swept over the disciples of Bixiao Pavilion, his eyes burning with undisguised greed. At that very moment, his eyes locked onto me, standing atop the head of the cloud spirit sparrow. How truly laughable this is. Since when has the Bixiao Pavilion begun keeping men? And to think they are keeping such a useless old man, someone so weak he could not even truss up a chicken? Tell me, Elder Lu, even if your Bixiao Pavilion is desperate for men, there is no need to sink to such pathetic depths. Our Yulin sect is full of strong young men. Shall I gift a few to you? These words struck like sharp blades into the hearts of the Bixiao Pavilion disciples. Everyone trembled with rage, their eyes filled with indignation and fury. The killing intent radiating from Lu Ruyan nearly spilled over, turning the air around her deathly cold. Charge, Elder Lu. Tear that foul mouth of his to pieces. Let him realize that the members of Bixiao Pavilion are not to be bullied. Hearing my words, Chu Hung laughed even more violently, doubling over until he could no longer stand straight. But before his laughter could fade, I shifted slightly, appearing right before him in the blink of an eye. Chu Hung's heart jolted and his expression shifted drastically. He hurriedly surged his true energy, attempting to summon the nine-tailed spirit. But before his true energy could circulate, a withered, aged hand covered in wrinkles reached out and clamped tightly onto his chin. A crisp cracking sound echoed out. He could only emit a stifled groan, unable to even speak a word. Immediately afterward, I twisted my wrist with force. Chu Hung shrieked in agony, his scream piercing and shrill, yet he possessed no strength left to struggle. Hearing his wretched wails, I spun him around, forcing him to face the disciples of the Yuling sect. As for Chu Hung, a surge of sword energy had already invaded his body, shattering every one of his meridians in a single instant. Now, let alone begging for mercy, even drawing a single breath had become an arduous task. The disciples of the Yuling sect witnessed this scene, their legs trembling in terror, their faces as pale as sheets of paper. I bared my teeth, a ghastly smile appearing on my face, my icy gaze sweeping across the Yuling sect disciples. Why are you no longer laughing? Why have you stopped laughing? You were all so amused just a moment ago. Keep laughing, I commanded as I stomped down hard beneath my feet. A surge of overwhelming power erupted instantly, striking directly upon the shell of the black gold spirit turtle. The black gold spirit turtle did not even have time to let out a single groan. Its shell shattered in the blink of an eye, and its colossal body, losing all support, plummeted directly into the deep mountain range below. As for me, I had already selected a piece of the black gold spirit turtle's meat, the most tender part of its body, and joyfully carried it back onto the head of the cloud spirit sparrow, then brushed the dust off my clothes, looking for all the world like a simple farmer returning from the fields. The disciples of the Bixiao Pavilion had long been stunned into silence by my brutal display of power, each of them standing frozen in place, their eyes glazed, having even forgotten how to breathe. It was not until I set up a pot, preparing to stew the turtle meat, that they slowly began to recover their senses. At this moment, Lu Ruyan's face turned deathly pale, for she understood all too well that these people would undoubtedly report this incident to the Yuling sect. Those chosen to enter the Qingfeng secret realm were essentially the elite disciples of their sects, yet here they had all been slaughtered by me in a single breath. With old grudges already existing and now new ones added, I feared that this time the Zhengyuan sect would struggle to protect the Bixiao Pavilion. Furthermore, before setting out, Su Qingyuan had specifically instructed her that this journey must be kept low profile and that she was not to clash with any other sect. Yet, even before reaching the Qingfeng secret realm, we had already brought about a calamity of heaven-shaking proportions. But upon further reflection, since things had reached this point, there was no use in worrying. The people were already dead. The meat was already in hand, and at worst, we would simply stake everything in a battle against the Yuling sect. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath and bowed respectfully before me. Many thanks to you, Senior, for your assistance. Without you, we would certainly have been humiliated by the Yuling sect today. After realizing I had no need for the remaining carcass, he turned to look at Lin Yuding beside him. Yuding, take a few people down there and properly salvage the remains of the black gold spirit turtle. Within the body of this black gold spirit turtle lies a faint trace of the ancient Xuanwu bloodline. The shell can be refined into a defensive artifact, the blood and flesh can be used to concoct elixirs, and the inner core is an exceptionally rare spiritual resource. Every part of it is a treasure, it must absolutely not be wasted. Once everyone had finished clearing the area, we gathered together to share a meal of turtle hot pot. Lin Yuding also consumed the inner core of the black gold spirit turtle. Everyone was in high spirits, with only the disciples of the Early the next morning, as the horizon began to flush with the pale light of dawn, the cloud skiff slowly descended upon Fingming Mountain. This place was the entrance to the Qingfeng secret realm. It was already teeming with people, bustling with as much commotion as a common marketplace. The moment the disciples of Bixiao Pavilion appeared, they immediately stirred up quite a commotion. For nearly 1,000 years, Bixiao Pavilion had not sent anyone into the Qingfeng secret realm. Their sudden appearance here naturally drew the attention of all present. The female disciples of Bixiao Pavilion were all strikingly beautiful, dressed in elegant green robes, their figures graceful and refined, standing out all the more amidst the dense crowd. But when the onlookers saw Lu Ruyan bowing respectfully before me, with such an attitude of humility, everyone was stunned, whispering to one another in hushed tones, speculating just what kind of great figure I truly was. After Lu Ruyan settled into our quarters, it was not long before someone came to pay a visit. When Lu Ruyan saw who had arrived, her expression shifted instinctively, for this person was none other than the law enforcement elder of the Feiyun sect. On the day Qian Wansong arrived at Bixiao Pavilion, Qian Zhuqiao had died by my hand for attempting to provoke me. Lu Ruyan knew the truth of that matter well. Now that the girl's own brother had come knocking, how could Lu Ruyan not feel a sense of dread? Fortunately, Qian Wangguan was still unaware of the truth. He greeted her courteously, apologies for the intrusion, Elder Lu, but regarding my younger sister, Yu visited Bixiao Pavilion a few days ago to pay her respects. I am unsure of her current status. Elder Qian, please rest assured. Recently, Miss Yu experienced a moment of sudden enlightenment, and she is currently in seclusion, cultivating diligently within the pavilion. It is inconvenient for her to receive guests at this moment. Once she concludes her seclusion, I shall personally ensure she sends word to you. Hearing this, a look of relief and joy immediately lit up Qian Wangguan's eyes. Good, very good. Enlightenment is a profound serendipity on the path of cultivation. One must never disturb her. Alright, this time as Bixiao Pavilion enters the Qingfeng secret realm, remember not to be overly reckless. The secret realm is fraught with endless peril. It is enough to simply let the disciples broaden their horizons. There is no need to contend for those rare heavenly treasures. Preserving one's life is of the utmost importance. Having said this, he led his followers away with an arrogant air, completely oblivious to the flash of panic that had crossed the depths of Lu Ruyan's eyes. Immediately afterward, Lu Ruyan summoned all the disciples. With a stern face, she held a brief meeting, stating that upon entering the secret realm, everyone must follow the commands of Lin Yuexian. Our primary objective for this journey is not to compete for resources, but to ensure that everyone returns safely. As long as you survive and make it out, it does not matter if we return empty-handed. No sooner had Lu Ruyan finished her instructions than I stepped forward, unhurried and composed. With a gentle flick of my finger, dozens of translucent sword auras, barely visible to the naked eye, dispersed in every direction. Like shimmering stardust, they moved with incredible speed, alighting upon each female disciple and silently merging into their bodies. I swept my gaze across the room. I once promised your sect masters that I would see to your safety, and I shall never go back on my word. Each of you now carries a strand of my sword aura. Should you encounter danger, it will automatically activate and preserve your life. Once inside the secret realm, as long as you find me, you will be absolutely secure. At this moment, only half an hour remained until the secret realm opened. The once noisy Fengming Valley was suddenly drenched in a light drizzle. The pattering of the rain, however, could not dampen the frigid aura of slaughter hanging over the valley. This pressure was like an invisible tide, ceaselessly washing over the crowd and refusing to dissipate, causing every cultivator to tense their nerves instinctively. By the time we reached the entrance of the secret realm at Longwei Cliff, the area was already packed with cultivators from various sects. The moment the disciples of Bixiao Pavilion appeared, they drew numerous gazes, yet no one dared to gossip recklessly anymore. For everyone understood well that the Qingfeng secret realm was both a treasury of resources and a place of brutal trial. Each time the secret realm opened, the number of cultivators who survived to return had never exceeded 30%. A tiny black dot suddenly appeared in the void at the edge of the cliff, expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. It stopped growing only once it was just large enough for a person to pass through. The crowd began to enter the secret realm in turns, following the order of each sect's strength. I leaned back against an ancient pine tree on the cliffside, feeling utterly restless and impatient, yawning repeatedly as I stared at the endless queue ahead of us. The system Atong lay at my feet, wagging its tail. Host, don't you have a sword technique that can directly cleave through this barrier? Why not just slash through this tattered barrier and be done with it? It would save us from wasting time standing here. But when it looked up and saw my dazed expression, it appeared as if I hadn't heard a word. It was nearly driven to the point of spitting blood, muttering internally that indeed senile dementia was an incurable malady. After waiting on the cliff for exactly 20 minutes, it was finally the turn of the last group. The disciples of Bixiao Pavilion prepared to enter. Lin Yuexian, leading the group, took a deep breath and was about to step through the black aperture when a seductive voice suddenly rang out to stop her. Blocking everyone's path, a woman in a crimson dress approached with slow, measured steps. Her brow and eyes carried a hint of allure, for she was Bailey Yaoji, an elder of the Xuanshui sect. She turned her gaze toward Lu Ruyan and spoke in a strange, mocking tone. Disciples with decent potential in your Bixiao Pavilion are already as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. If they were all to perish within the secret realm, I fear that is a burden you would be unable to bear. Lu Ruyan's expression darkened instantly. She knew the history of Bailey Yaoji better than anyone. This woman was once a disciple of Bixiao Pavilion, but a century ago, driven by greed, she stole the sect's cultivation manuals and betrayed them, fleeing in the dead of night. Before leaving, she had also taken several offensive cultivation techniques that were already incredibly scarce within Bixiao Pavilion. That incident caused the already weakening Bixiao Pavilion to suffer a devastating blow, from which it never recovered. In the world of cultivation, the most unforgivable sin is the betrayal of one's sect. Yet it is unknown what methods Bailey Yaoji employed, for she not only successfully joined the Xuanshui sect, but 30 years ago she even ascended to the position of an elder within the Xuanshui sect, basking in endless glory. Lu Ruyan understood clearly in her heart that Bailey Yaoji was not offering genuine advice, but was intentionally stalling for time, so that once the Bixiao Pavilion disciples entered the secret realm, they would be placed in a completely disadvantageous position. Her schemes could be described as nothing short of venomous. Lu Ruyan did not bother to waste words with her, and with a flick of her hand, a white silk ribbon suddenly manifested in midair, carrying a sharp cutting gale as it surged directly toward Bailey Yaoji. Seeing this, the corners of Bailey Yaoji's lips curled into a mocking smile. With a gentle flick of her finger, a crimson flying sword, ignited with a glow as it took flight, moving with the speed of lightning. In the blink of an eye, it shredded Lu Ruyan's silk ribbon, turning it into countless tattered threads fluttering through the sky. This sight caught Lu Ruyan off guard, and she hurriedly retreated several steps, gathering all the inner energy within her to weave an invisible protective barrier before her, her eyes fixed on Bailey Yaoji with vigilant intensity. What is the matter? This flying sword is what I exchanged for those 4 cultivation techniques of yours from Bixiao Pavilion. Its power is not half bad, is it? These words caused... She lunged forward, intending to meet the flying sword head-on, but upon sensing the razor-sharp sword intent, Lu Ruyan realized she had been far too reckless. By the time she attempted to retreat, it was already too late. She had no choice but to exhaust every ounce of strength within her body. Just as Lu Ruyan believed she could not escape this calamity, and in that hairbreadth moment of mortal danger, a lazy and utterly out-of-place voice suddenly rang out. In the midst of a battlefield, let me see what sort of fascinating display this is. No sooner had the words left my lips than a bizarre scene unfolded. The flying sword, which had been hurtling forward with the intent to sever a throat, abruptly veered off course and flew straight toward me. This unbelievable spectacle left every disciple of the Bixiao Pavilion standing frozen like statues. Bailey Yaoji was seized by unparalleled terror. She hurriedly formed sword seals, yet no matter how she urged it, the flying sword remained as if it had lost all spirit. It showed no reaction, and as I watched the small red sword circling me happily, at one moment brushing against my sleeve, and at the next orbiting around my body, everyone was stunned to the point of speechlessness. I examined the small blade with genuine interest before reaching out to touch the flat of the blade. Quite interesting. The sword intent is indeed potent, but it lacks any real utility. It is not sharp enough. What kind of trash is this? A casual fart from you would be more powerful than the sword intent of this broken toy. Can you show even a shred of potential? What a disgrace. After it finished speaking, I lifted my foot and kicked it straight off the dragon boat. Ow, ow, you damn old man. I will definitely return. Watching the silhouette of the sword vanish into the deep abyss, I took a deep breath, and the irritation I had harbored for days instantly dissipated. My mood felt lighter than it had ever been. But just as we were about to enter the gates of the secret realm, Bailey Yaoji charged forward like a madwoman. This item was obtained by using the cultivation manuals of the Bixiao Pavilion. It belongs to me. Return it to me at once. It is mine. Give it back. I could not be bothered to entangle myself with her. With a mere wave of my hand, an invisible force erupted instantly. I severed the connection between Bailey Yaoji and the flying sword completely, leaving not a trace of her influence behind. The sword, now as obedient as a tamed hound, hovered faithfully at my side. Bailey Yaoji utterly collapsed, her eyes becoming vacant. On the verge of a mental breakdown, she shrieked and unleashed a torrent of vile curses at me. But what followed left everyone even more astounded. The crimson flying sword acted of its own accord, darting straight toward Bailey Yaoji. Its sword aura surged, a flash of red light erupted, and it ensnared Bailey Yaoji, shredding the protective energy surrounding her body. Moments later, the blade struck ruthlessly into her chest. Bailey Yaoji let out a harrowing, miserable cry, her body flung away like a kite with a broken string. She crashed heavily to the ground, vomiting blood, and could no longer muster the strength to rise. I rolled my eyes with disdain, then paced leisurely toward the entrance of the secret realm with my hands clasped behind my back. Seeing me depart, the crimson blade hurried back, circling me incessantly and fawning in an attempt to please me. I cast a vexed glance at it and spoke. You are so weak. Why do you persist in following me? You are nothing but a nuisance. The blade seemed to understand my words. Its red light dimmed instantly, and the metal trembled as if it were on the verge of tears. Seeing its pitiable state, I curled my lip in resignation and said, I shall assign you a task. Protect this young lady well. Once I return from the secret realm, I will bestow spirit energy upon you to make you more formidable. Hearing this, the crimson sword immediately flew to Lu Ruyan's side, its sharp blade emitting a fierce aura, scanning the surroundings with the intense, vigilant air of a loyal guardian. At that very moment, as the sword radiated its intent, a violent tremor rippled through the entrance of the Qingfeng's secret realm, and the black point of light suddenly expanded, forming a churning vortex. Quickly, enter the secret realm. Remember my instructions, safety above all else. Lin Yu was the first to step forward. She entered the vortex, and her silhouette vanished instantly. The remaining disciples hurried to follow in her wake. When it was Su Qin Xiaodi's turn, they hesitated and looked back at me one last time. Go, hurry along. Remember to save some treasures for me. Do not spend all your time hunting for riches alone. The 2 girls giggled before turning and disappearing into the vortex. Seeing that all the disciples of Bixiao Pavilion had entered, I finally strolled toward the entrance. Yet at the very moment I prepared to step inside, a frigid voice suddenly echoed from the side. Old man, you dare to enter the secret realm after slaughtering the disciples of my Yuling sect? Today you shall remain here and pay with your life. As the words faded, 3 dark figures shot forth from the crowd, forming a triangle to surround me. The cultivation aura of all 3 was above the 5th stage. Lu Ruyan's expression changed instantly. Instinctively, she moved to step forward, but I raised my hand to stop her. She recognized them. These 3 were all elders of the Yuling sect. Their strength was formidable, especially the bald old man leading them. He was the 2nd elder of the Yuling sect, and his true power was unfathomable. The gathering of cultivators erupted in commotion, everyone scrambling to retreat and widen the distance. The bald elder stared at me with venomous eyes. Chu Sheng was my own brother, yet you dared to kill him. Today I will grind your bones to dust to avenge him. The other two elders simultaneously released the phantoms of three savage spirit beasts. A three-headed giant serpent, a flaming lion, and an iron-armored rhinoceros. Their imposing aura was vast, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. I picked at my ear, appearing somewhat impatient. If you wish to fight, be quick about it. Do not delay me from finding those girls. If any harm befalls them, I will uproot your entire Yuling sect. Hearing this, the bald elder flew into a rage. The three spirits binding dragon formation activated, and the three spirit beast phantoms instantly converged, charging toward me from three directions. Wherever they passed, the ground cracked and shattered. Rolling waves of energy surged upward, causing the spectators to pale in terror. Yet I merely let out a yawn and stretched languidly, before lifting my right foot and stamping it onto the ground with casual indifference. Boom! A thunderous explosion erupted as a golden shockwave, visible to the naked eye, rippled outward. With me at the center, it spread in all directions in a heartbeat, causing the very air to warp and distort in its wake. Those three imposing spirit beast phantoms, the moment they touched the shockwave, burst like popping bubbles, transforming into flecks of spiritual light that vanished into the void. The bald elder and the two remaining elders were struck as if by an invisible giant hand. All of them caught. His body swayed as he staggered back several steps. How could this be possible? I rubbed my lower back and muttered, "Good grief, that was quite the exertion. My bones certainly aren't what they used to be, all for a single stomp." Having said that, I looked over at the three men who remained frozen in shock and kindly reminded them, "Are you still going to fight? If you are finished, I shall be on my way. Do not hinder my affairs." The bald elder's complexion shifted between pale and livid. Finally, he gritted his teeth and commanded, "Withdraw." The three of them retreated into the crowd in a sorry state, no longer daring to obstruct me or even cast a second glance in my direction. Only then did I sway toward the vortex, saying, "Take good care of the little sword. Look after it well and ensure it comes to no harm." Lu Rian looked at the crimson flying sword in her hand, which was vibrating with a low hum, appearing quite pleased with itself. She could neither laugh nor cry. Inside the vortex passage, the light shifted in strange, surreal patterns with all manner of multicolored brilliance interlaced together. I felt as though I had been tossed into a spinning centrifuge, my head dizzy and my vision blurred to the point where I could no longer discern any direction. Fortunately, the ordeal did not last long. After only a few short breaths, the world before my eyes suddenly illuminated. I collapsed heavily onto a patch of soft grass. I stood up slowly and surveyed my surroundings, finding nothing but towering, ancient trees piercing the sky. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the foliage, casting mottled streaks of light upon the ground. The air was saturated with dense wood spirit chi. A single breath left my entire body invigorated, and the aura within my dantian began to stabilize. At that exact moment, the voice of the system, Atong, echoed in my mind. "Host, an irregular energy fluctuation has been detected to the southeast. It is advised that the host proceed there immediately. There may be a treasure to be found." "Since when did you become so eager? Were you not always indolent in the past?" The system hurried to reply, "Am I not merely trying to make amends for my past failures? I know I was wrong for accidentally kicking you off the cliff last time. Furthermore, I have discovered that the suppression of the heavenly Tao here seems slightly weaker than in the outside world. Perhaps we can find a way to break the seal of the heavenly Tao and help you restore your full power." I chose to ignore it and closed my eyes, focusing my spirit to sense the sword intent imprints I had previously bestowed upon my disciples. A moment later, I opened my eyes and frowned slightly. Those sword intent imprints were all in motion, but the one closest to me was rapidly fading. Something was wrong. My body flickered as I vanished from the spot. When I reappeared, I was already 1,000 jang away. This is a movement technique I have painstakingly refined for 10,000 years. It possesses no flashy flourishes, yet its speed is absolute. Within a few short breaths, I arrived at a secluded valley. From afar, I could see three men clad in black, surrounding a female disciple of the Bixiao Pavilion. The young woman parried left and dodged right, struggling immensely to hold her ground. The protective sword aura enveloping her had already been triggered once. At this moment, it remained only as a fragile, translucent layer. It appeared ready to shatter like brittle wax at any second. The young lady from Bixiao Pavilion is quite a beauty indeed. Once we break through your protective aura, our brothers will ensure you are taken care of properly. The female disciple's face turned deathly pale, yet she still swung her long sword with desperate resolve. However, the disparity in their strength was too vast, and her protective aura finally shattered into nothingness. In that moment, hanging by a single thread, my figure flickered, and I appeared instantly before her. I raised two fingers and lightly pinched the air, catching the incoming blade of spiritual energy between my fingertips. With a gentle squeeze, effortless as if crumbling a piece of dried pastry, the blade energy was pulverized into dust and dissipated into the air. The three men in black were startled by the sudden appearance of a ragged old man. The scarred one scrutinized my appearance, a flash of disdain surfacing in his eyes. He spat on the ground. Where did this old man crawl out from, daring to interfere with the affairs of the Xuanying sect? If you know what is good for you, get lost or we shall kill you alongside her. I turned my head to look at the female disciple who had yet to recover from her shock. "What is your name?" The female disciple responded to me in a daze. My name is Lu Yue. Stand back and watch closely. The next move will be quite a sight to behold. Lu Yue hurriedly retreated a few steps, and the scarred man, seeing himself ignored, roared, "You court death!" No sooner had the words left his lips than the three men in black attacked in unison. The glint of blades and shadows enveloped me, rushing toward me with lethal ferocity. I merely sighed softly, slowly raising my right hand before flicking it toward the trio. There was no heaven-shaking pressure, nor any blinding brilliance. Only three thin black streaks suddenly manifested in the air, passing through the throats of the three men like phantoms in the blink of an eye. The very next second, before the terror could even fade from their faces, all three collapsed with a heavy thud. Fresh blood surged from their bodies, staining the grass beneath our feet a deep red. Luya was so terrified that she quickly covered her mouth, her entire body trembling. I turned around and said to her, "Let us go. Follow me to find the other disciples." Luya nodded repeatedly, hurrying to catch up to me. After hesitating for a moment, she could not help but ask, "Senior, why did you not ask me what had happened? Is there anything worth asking?" It was nothing more than murder for treasures or base desires sparked by beauty. I have witnessed these scenes for over 100,000 years. I am already sick to death of them. There is no need to ask anything further. Luye was momentarily rendered speechless, having no choice but to follow silently behind. Over the next half-day, I led Luyu in quickly traversing the secret realm, relying on the guidance provided by the sword aura imprints. Along the way, we located 5 more disciples of the Bixiao Pavilion, among whom 2 had sustained minor injuries, fortunately nothing of any serious consequence. After the group reunited, Lin Yueyuan hurried to check the head count, her expression gradually becoming grave. Including Liu Yue, only 7 disciples had been found so far. The whereabouts of Su Qing, Xiaodi, and 3 other disciples remained unknown. I closed my eyes, focusing my spirit once more to sense the locations of the sword aura imprints. Su Qing and Xiaodi were to the east, while the remaining 3 were to the west. We decided to head toward the larger group to the east. No one raised any objections, and the group immediately made haste toward the west. Half an hour later, the group arrived at a cliffside in the west. From a distance, they could see 3 female disciples of the Bixiao Pavilion being surrounded by 7 or 8 men in brocade robes, leaving them in a dire predicament. The leader was a youth in brocade attire, holding a folding fan. He possessed a handsome countenance, yet his expression was one of arrogance and disdain. "Disciples of the Bixiao Pavilion, if you know what is good for you, hand over the Ziyu ginseng you just acquired and share a few drinks with these senior brothers. Chat for a while, and I shall let you go. How about it?" The 3 female disciples stood back to back, their faces filled with fury and indignation. "Young Master Liu, your Feiyun sect is supposed to be a righteous and reputable faction in the cultivation world. How can you engage in such banditry? To rob us of our items and then seek to humiliate us, this is truly too much. Within this secret realm, the strong devour the weak. There is no place left to speak of righteous factions. Furthermore, my father Zhang Erho is the sect master of the Feiyun sect. No matter what I do to you, your Bixiao Pavilion would not dare utter a single word of dissent. It is a narrow path where enemies are destined to meet, so let me handle this. Move aside." Having spoken, I stepped forward at a leisurely pace. The Bixiao Pavilion is truly declining. Even an old man who cannot kill a chicken, a withered corpse waiting for the coffin, is allowed to lead people in here. In my view, you have truly run out of people to employ. The 7 or 8 men behind him chimed in with raucous laughter. I stepped directly. "Your father is Zhang Erhe, is that right? And what of it? The old man is finally afraid now that he's heard my father's name, isn't he? Kneel down and apologize at once, then bring those young maidens from the Bixiao Pavilion to drink with me, and I might just spare your miserable life." I nodded, then without a moment's warning, I swung my hand and delivered a direct strike. Crack. The crisp sound of the slap echoed against the cliff walls as the young man in silk robe spun 3 times in place. Everyone present was stunned into silence. "You dare strike me?" I responded by backhanding him again. This blow carried even more force, knocking him directly to the ground before I lifted my foot and pinned him by the spine. "So what if I struck you? Did your father never teach you to respect your elders? A mere pup who has barely begun his cultivation journey dares to act so arrogantly before me? Arrogant and overbearing, you are truly courting death." The young man in silk robes struggled to crawl away, but under the weight of my foot he could not move an inch. "What are you lot just standing there for? Kill this old man for me, and I shall reward you handsomely." The lackeys finally came to their senses, brandishing their artifacts as they charged straight toward me. I merely let out a soft sigh and pressed down with my toes. A sharp crack rang out as the young man's spine shattered under my foot. Before his agonizing scream could even leave his throat, I kicked him off the cliffside, sending him plummeting into the abyss below. Immediately after, I turned to face the 7 or 8 lackeys charging in my direction. I raised my right hand, splayed my fingers, and slowly tightened them into a fist. A series of thunderous explosions rang out in rapid succession. The 7 or 8 lackeys were crushed as if by an invisible hand, failing to even let out a single cry of agony. They were annihilated in midair. The cliffside fell into a deathly silence, broken only by the howling wind and the heavy, ragged breathing of the Bixiao Pavilion disciples. I brushed off my hands and carefully stowed the purple jade ginseng. "It is a precious item that will aid your cultivation. Do not waste it." The 3 female disciples finally recovered their senses and carefully tucked the purple jade ginseng into their storage rings. At that moment, I detected an energy disturbance at the heart of the secret realm. It is located 3,000 meters to the southeast. The energy is exceptionally dense. There is a high probability that a heaven-sent treasure is manifesting. Let us proceed at once. If we are too slow, others will surely seize it for themselves. My eyes lit up and a sudden surge of interest stirred within me. A heaven-sent treasure would be perfect for nourishing my body. Perhaps it will even help me restore my strength more rapidly. I turned to Lin Yuation and said, find a safe place to hide for now. I must go locate Su Qing and Xiao Di and perhaps see if there are any treasures to be found along the way. Senior, please be careful. As I spoke, my figure flickered and in an instant I vanished from where I stood. I followed the guidance of the sword chi mark, only to discover that the positions of Su Qing and Xiao Di had not shifted at all. A sense of unease involuntarily stirred within my heart. I immediately unleashed my full speed using flash steps, pushing my velocity even further. Within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, I reached the canyon to the southeast. From afar, I could see the canyon was choked with a thick crimson miasma, making it impossible to discern the scene within. I could only vaguely make out two figures collapsed on the ground. They were indeed Su Qing and Xiao Di. As I moved to approach, the system warned, Host, be careful. This is the miasma of carnal desire. Its toxicity is extreme. Even you must not take it lightly. I have cultivated the virgin art for 100,000 years, possessing a body brimming with righteous energy. Do you truly think I would fear this heterodox, demonic miasma? What a laughable notion. With that, he strode arrogantly into the mist. The crimson miasma had barely touched him before it was pulverized into dust by his sword chi. I immediately knelt beside Su Qing and Xiao Di to conduct a thorough examination, discovering that the two of them were merely unconscious. Their breathing remained stable, though a turbulent crimson demonic force flowed rampantly through their bodies. I placed my hand upon Su Qing's forehead. A strand of pure refined sword chi slowly poured into her body, tracing her meridians until it caught the crimson demonic force and shredded it to pieces in an instant, cleansing her system completely. Not long after, the two of them gradually regained consciousness. Seeing me the moment they opened their eyes, their hearts finally settled. Senior, we were careless and wandered into this mist. After inhaling the vapors, we felt our strength drain away and lost all awareness. Just as I was about to speak, a strange fragrance wafted from the depths of the canyon, and immediately afterward, the earth trembled and mountains swayed as a seven-colored beam of light surged toward the heavens. The system shouted with excitement, It is the seven-colored profound lotus. Host, it is truly the seven-colored profound lotus. This is the legendary supreme treasure capable of reconstructing a physical body and reversing one's cultivation. Consume it, and you will not only restore your youthful appearance, but also break the heavenly Tao seal, reclaiming your full power. Hurry and secure it. My eyes ignited with intensity, my heart overflowing with joy. I grabbed one person in each hand and bolted toward the seven-colored light. A short while later, the three of us reached the end of the canyon. In the center of the lake, a seven-colored lotus rose from the waters. Each petal emitted a distinct brilliant light. Over 30 individuals had gathered on the shore, divided into three opposing factions. Judging by their attire, they belonged to the Xuanshui sect, the Zhengyuan sect, and the Feiyun sect. The white-haired elder standing at the forefront was Zhang Erhe of the Feiyun sect. Zhang Erhe clearly recognized me, his gaze turned cold as ice. Gritting his teeth, he snarled, So it was you who dared to kill my son. Today I shall make you pay the price. I signaled the two women to retreat to a safe distance, and calmly replied, Your son's mouth was foul and unclean. I simply taught him a lesson on your behalf. There is no need to thank me, old man. Kill him for me. Behind the elder, 5 male elders of the Feiyun sect stepped forward in unison. Their sleeves fluttered violently as 5 streams of intense true essence erupted and roared outward. In the air, they condensed into 5 ferocious, illusory giant dragons, which charged directly toward me with deafening roars. The sound caused the entire canyon to vibrate and hum, yet I remained standing motionless, only slowly raising my left hand, my 5 fingers slightly spread, aiming at the 5 illusory dragons plummeting toward me, and then leisurely clenching them into a fist. A crisp cracking sound rang out, as if the spiritual energy of the entire world had been constricted in an instant. Those 5 terrifying illusory dragons were as fragile as glass. Gripped by an invisible colossal hand, they shattered instantly into countless tiny specks of light that filled the sky before dissolving into the air. Ger's pupils contracted violently. Only now did he realize that the strength of the beggar before him far exceeded his imagination. But with the 7-colored mystic lotus right before his eyes, how could he abandon such a fortuitous opportunity? He immediately turned to look at the 2 other factions not far away, and shouted in a deep voice, Fellow Taoists of the Xuanshui sect and the Zhengyuan sect, this man's power is treacherous, his strength is far too bizarre. Let us join forces to eliminate him. Elder Zhang is correct. Joining forces to eradicate this person is the best course of action. Let us unite. First, we slay this. The 3 factions reached a silent agreement in an instant. Over 30 masters, adorned in diverse vestments, surged forward to surround me. Their magical artifacts hovered ominously above their heads. As dazzling halos radiated outward and spiritual energy converged, I suddenly began to laugh, the depth of my eyes swirling with a gaze that had weathered 10,000 eons. My voice rang out softly, 10,000 years, a full 10,000 years, and finally, I can indulge in a battle worth fighting. The moment these words left my lips, I slowly spread my arms and closed my eyes. Between my teeth, I uttered 3 words, sword intent, awaken. In that heartbeat, with me as the epicenter, Every ounce of color within 100 zhang radius was drained away. Only two colors remained, the purity of black and white. The 30-plus masters held their offensive stances, yet they were rendered completely motionless. Terror was etched onto every face, though their eyes still darted in desperate confusion. I opened my eyes slowly, walking through this silent monochrome world. My footsteps were as light as air, yet each step felt as though I were treading directly upon their hearts. I arrived before Zhang Erhe reached out and tapped a finger against his rigid face, murmuring, "In your next life, remember to choose a better time to be reincarnated. First, learn to raise your son properly. Do not let him speak such filth every time he opens his mouth. It is truly nauseating to behold." As I finished, my fingertip flicked, pressing directly into the center of Zhang Erhe's brow. There was no heaven-shaking explosion. Instead, Zhang Erhe's body began to disintegrate from within, dissolving into a mist of bronze-green blood, vanishing into the black and white world without leaving even a trace behind. Immediately after, I turned toward the beautiful woman from the Xuan Shui sect and the black-robed elder from the Zhenyuan sect. With a few subtle taps of my fingers, those masters who had once stood so arrogantly looking down upon all, blossomed one after another like fireworks, quietly fading into nothingness without a sound, leaving behind only countless specks of spiritual energy drifting through the sky. As the black and white domain slowly receded, color and sound returned to the heavens and the earth. Only I remained in the canyon. Su Qin and Xiao Di stood near the seven-colored profound lotus, which was blooming silently by the edge of the pond. Su Qin and Xiao Di had long since collapsed on the ground, their legs weak, their eyes glazed, having witnessed with their own eyes the silent disappearance of over 30 martial realm masters. The shock was so profound that they lacked the strength to speak, their chests heaving as they gasped for air. I walked slowly toward the bank of the pond. Reaching out, my fingertips gently brushed against the petals. An intense, heavy fragrance immediately flooded my senses. With just a single inhalation, every trace of fatigue in my body was swept away. My once clogged meridians suddenly became clear and unobstructed. The system's voice echoed urgently in my mind, "Consume it immediately." Once plucked, the seven-colored profound lotus loses its spiritual energy rapidly. It can retain its potency for at most 1 moment. To miss this chance would mean losing a fortune one might not encounter again in a lifetime. I hesitated for a brief second, my gaze sweeping across the area not far from us. Seeing Su Qin and Xiao Di still dazed, I reached out to pluck the two softest, most tender petals and stepped forward to offer them. "Eat. This will benefit your cultivation." With that, I gathered the remaining petals and the lotus base, shoving them directly into my mouth. The petals dissolved the moment they touched my tongue, transforming into a surge of pure concentrated warmth. It flowed down my throat into my abdomen, then instantly spread throughout my limbs and 100 meridians. My internal channels were forcefully expanded, and my bones began to emit faint, rhythmic cracking sounds. My withered, hunched body began to slowly overflow with new vitality. The deep wrinkles etched upon my face were smoothed away like fabric being pressed flat, slowly vanishing piece by piece. My snow-white hair began to turn jet black from the roots, and my hunched back gradually straightened. Within a few short breaths, I had transformed from an old man in tattered robes, my face weathered by the ravages of time, into a youth of about 20 years. With sword-like brows and star-bright eyes, my posture was tall and indomitable. Only those deep, profound eyes still harbored the sediment of 10,000 years, a lingering sense of sorrow and solitude. Su Qin and Xiao Die stared in complete bewilderment, their mouths slightly agape, forgetting even to chew the petals in their mouths. I tested my new body, nodding in satisfaction. I warned them, regarding what happened in the secret realm today, not a word is to be spoken to anyone outside of us three. They nodded frantically, much like chicks pecking at grain. At that very moment, the entire secret realm began to shudder violently. The ground beneath our feet buckled and tilted chaotically, while the sky above cracked open with jagged fissures. The system's voice rang out once more. "This is bad, host. The sword intent you unleashed was far too tyrannical. It has shattered the spatial structure of this realm. It is on the verge of collapse. Run." My expression shifted. I immediately seized Su Qin and Xiao Dai by the wrists, channeling all my strength into a teleportation technique. I surged toward the entrance of the secret realm with everything I had. Along the path, cultivators were scattered everywhere, fleeing in utter terror. Some were struck by massive falling boulders, perishing instantly on the spot. Others, merely a heartbeat too slow, were swallowed by sudden spatial rifts before they could even let out a final cry of despair. When the three of us reached the entrance to the secret realm, the once stable vortex had descended into absolute chaos. Lu Ruyan had been waiting outside in a state of agitation. Seeing the three of us return safely, she let out a long, relieved sigh. However, as her gaze fell upon me, she froze in bewilderment. "Are you a senior? The rejuvenation elixir is no longer required." Lu Ruyan finally realized the truth, her look of astonishment instantly transforming into one of genuine delight. She stepped forward hastily and bowed respectfully. "This junior pays her respects to the senior. I never expected that you would recover your youth through a serendipitous encounter. It is truly a joyous and auspicious occasion." At that very moment, the entrance to the secret realm collapsed with a deafening roar, and debris rained down from the heavens like a tempest. The swirling vortex vanished entirely, leaving all those cultivators who had failed to escape buried within the collapsing realm. In the end, fewer than 100 survivors emerged. The major sects had suffered catastrophic losses, with the dead and wounded too numerous to count. save for the disciples of the Bixiao Pavilion. Thanks to my covert protection, every one of them returned safely, while also bringing back a wealth of rare treasures gathered from within the secret realm. The survivors caught sight of my rejuvenated appearance, and each of them was struck dumb with shock. Yet no one dared to step forward and inquire further. After all, merely managing to escape a collapsing secret realm with one's life was already a stroke of fortune of heavenly proportions. Upon returning to the Bixiao Pavilion, Su Qingyuan was sitting in the grand hall, deeply unsettled, drinking tea while awaiting news. When he saw me walk into the hall, the teacup in his hand shattered against the floor, his face etched with absolute disbelief. I smiled, stepped forward, and waved my hand gently before his eyes. What is the matter? What is the matter? Have you failed to recognize me after only a few days of separation? It is good that you have returned. It is truly good that you have returned. That evening, the Bixiao Pavilion held a grand banquet, with torches illuminating the grounds as everyone celebrated their safe return. During the banquet, Lu Ruyan reported everything that had transpired within the secret realm. Upon hearing that Zhang Erhe and his party from the Feiyun sect had been annihilated, Su Qingyuan's expression grew complex. He asked with concern, Senior, Zhang Erhe was a core elder of the Feiyun sect. Now that he is dead, the Feiyun sect will certainly not let this matter rest. What should we do next? I picked up a cup of wine from the table and took a sip. The wine was fragrant and potent, burning slightly as it traveled down my throat. When soldiers come, use a general to block them. When water rises, use earth to block it. If they wish to come, then let them come. It would be a perfect opportunity to resolve this once and for all, cutting off future troubles to avoid further annoyance. 3 days later, just as the sky began to brighten, the sound of shouting that shook the very heavens erupted outside the Bixiao Pavilion. The Feiyun sect had joined forces with the Wanshou sect, alongside 2 other major sects, the Xuanshu sect, gathering over 1,000 cultivators and surrounding the Bixiao Pavilion so tightly that not even a drop of water could escape. Their momentum was aggressive, and their killing intent soared into the sky. The leader was an old man dressed in violet robes. He had an imposing appearance, his hair and beard snowy white, with dense true essence surging around his body. This person was none other than Zhao Tiansheng, the sect master of the Feiyun sect. He stood hovering in midair, his robes fluttering violently in the wind. Su Qingyuan, hand the person over at once. Hand over the culprit who murdered Elder Zhang Erhe of my Feiyun sect. Otherwise, today I shall raise the Bixiao Pavilion to the ground, turning you all into dust, turning you all into dust. Every disciple of the Bixiao Pavilion faced this like a great catastrophe, gripping their magic artifacts tightly, their faces pale. Yet they still attempted to remain calm as they blocked the entrance to the main hall. Zhang Erhe was killed by a guest consultant of our Bixiao Pavilion, but he is not currently within the pavilion. If you wish to kill or execute, target me instead. Do you take me for a 3-year-old child? Today I will raise your Bixiao Pavilion to the ground. I do not believe I will fail to find him. Just as he was about to order the attack, I stepped out from the pavilion at a leisurely pace, yawning as I walked. Behind me followed Adu, who had taken the form of a young girl, and my voice was filled with impatience. Who is it? Creating such a ruckus early in the morning, disturbing others' peaceful sleep, is this not annoying? Zhao Tiansheng's gaze locked onto me instantly, sharp as lightning. He glared at me with piercing intensity. It was you who killed my man. Elder Zhang of the Feiyun sect, correct? That is right. I killed him. Is there a problem with that? He let out a loud, menacing laugh, thick with killing intent. Splendid, truly splendid. You are indeed an arrogant fool. Today I shall use your life to pay tribute to the spirit of Elder Zhang in the afterlife. Strike him down. As they leveled the Bixiao Pavilion, over 1,000 cultivators attacked in unison. Countless magical artifacts took flight, and spells poured down upon me like torrential rain. The blinding light shrouded the entire sky. Yet in the very next moment, all incoming attacks stopped abruptly 3 feet above my head, halted by an invisible barrier. No matter how much spiritual energy those cultivators unleashed, their artifacts and spells could not advance even half an inch. I sighed softly, then turned to a 2 behind me and said, "These lackeys are yours to deal with. Make it quick. Do not delay my return to sleep. It is finally my turn to shine. Rest assured, host, I shall dispose of them in the blink of an eye." Once he finished speaking, a toe tilted his head to the sky and let out a long roar. The sound was deafening, enough to rattle the senses. His body began to expand violently. In a flash, he transformed into a gargantuan beast 1,000 feet tall. His form resembled a Klin, yet he possessed a pair of pitch-black dragon horns. His entire body was covered in thick, heavy black scales. His 4 hooves trampled upon raging black flames. His berserk aura suppressed the very heavens and the earth. This was the first time A2 had revealed his true form, and even I was slightly taken aback, a flicker of surprise flashing in my eyes. A2 opened his massive maw, and a pillar of pitch-black light surged forth. Wherever the beam passed, space twisted and collapsed violently, tearing open terrifying spatial rifts. The cultivators of the 3 major sects were scared out of their wits. Before they could even attempt to flee, they were swept directly into the spatial rifts. In the blink of an eye, they vanished without a trace. Zhao Tisheng was struck by desperate terror, his face as pale as parchment as he frantically mobilized every ounce of true essence within his body. He unleashed his sect-protecting treasure in an attempt to stop that pillar of light, but before A2's overwhelming might, everything proved too fragile to withstand a single blow. A2 raised his massive claw and lightly slammed it down. Zhao Tiansheng and his supreme treasure were instantly pulverized into dust. In the span of a mere 10 breaths, over 1,000 cultivators had been reduced to ashes. Before the mountain gate of the Bixiao Pavilion, only a bottomless crater remained. A tongue slowly shrank its massive form, returning to the appearance of a young girl, then excitedly scampered to my side. Wagging its tail while awaiting praise, it said, Host, did you find that move of mine impressive? I didn't cause you to lose face, did I? I raised my foot and gave it a gentle kick, though my voice carried a rare hint of approval. Not bad, it can even be considered quite ferocious. Atong froze, its eyes instantly reddening as its voice choked with emotion. 10,000 years have passed. Host, you have finally praised me. I feared that you would never acknowledge me. I feared that you would never acknowledge me. With a show of feigned disdain, I pushed its silly head away and turned to look at Su Qingyuan, who remained standing there, mouth agape in shock. The matter had been resolved from this day forth. Surely no one would dare to come and stir up trouble for the Bixiao Pavilion again. Only then did Su Qingyuan slowly regain her senses, the gaze she fixed upon me growing even more complex. Thank you, Senior. With me here to preside over and provide guidance these past 3 months, the strength of the Bixiao Pavilion has soared like a kite on the wind. The cultivation levels of the disciples have advanced one after another, and the sect's influence has grown ever more powerful. That morning, the sunlight was exquisite, its warmth spreading throughout the courtyard. I lay on the rocking chair in the courtyard, closing my eyes to bask in the sun and enjoy the leisure. Su Qin and Xiao Di sat at the stone table nearby, carefully brewing tea, while Batong lay sprawled at my feet, curled up into a ball, snoring away, with a trail of drool leaking from the corner of its mouth. Su Qingyuan walked over slowly, stopped beside the rocking chair, and hesitated for a moment. Senior, I have thought about it very carefully recently. I wish to pass the position of Pavilion Master of the Bixiao Pavilion to Lu Ruyan. She is intelligent and resourceful, and her calculations are meticulous. She is more suited to handle the affairs of the Bixiao Pavilion than I. I slowly opened my eyes to look at her. That as well. You have been exhausted these past few years. It is indeed time for you to have a proper rest. Su Qingyuan bit her lips slightly and suddenly asked, Then, Senior, will you always stay at the Bixiao Pavilion? I raised my head to gaze at the mountain ranges shrouded in mist, remained silent. Perhaps so. After all, this place is surrounded by lush green mountains and clear waters, far removed from the strife of the world, with many lovely maidens by my side, and most importantly, I am well fed and sheltered, with no need for me to trouble myself with anything. Su Qingyuan chuckled. Staying here is well enough. Staying here is good, she said, beginning to rub against my pant leg. With a flattering expression, she giggled and added, Every time you perform a virtuous deed, the heavenly Tao bestows golden light of merit upon you. Although you cannot perceive it, I am able to absorb those rays of golden light. At this rate, in another 100 years, I will be able to shatter the restrictions of the heavenly Tao. By then, we can depart from this world and venture into the vast expanse of the wider universe. I remained silent for a moment, then lifted my foot and kicked the little girl away. Get lost. It has been difficult enough for me to settle down for a quiet retirement. Are you trying to stir up trouble again? If you dare mention venturing out once more, see if I don't deal with you. I am certainly not going back. Su Qin and Xiao Di observed the scene before them, unable to help but cover their mouths and giggle. The courtyard echoed with their clear melodic laughter, and Su Qingyuan's tears turned into a smile, her eyes overflowing with gentleness, as the long sunlight stretched across the courtyard, warm and peaceful. I closed my eyes slightly, the corners of my lips curling upward. Days such as these do not seem so bad after all. As for the matters of 100 years from now, I will deal with them when the time comes.